My paper is called Satire, Journalism, and Democracy in relation to Jon Stewart. Political satirist Jon Stewart began hosting The Daily Show on Comedy Central in 1999 and has since become one of the most popular comedians of his genre. In 2007, the Pew Research Center's Project for Excellence in Journalism conducted a survey that asked Americans who they admire and trust as a journalist. Perhaps unexpectedly, the comedian tied with Anderson Cooper, Brian Williams, Tom Brokaw, and Dan Rather at number 4 on the list. This has raised some questions about Stewart's influence on the way Americans perceive the news today, considering the fact that he is certainly not a journalist in any technical sense and doesn't claim to be, and yet he is currently one of the most trusted faces in the media. Stewart has also had an effect on the quality of journalism in today's mainstream media, as the news itself has frequently been subject to Stewart's criticism in recent years. Last October, Askmen.com recognized Jon Stewart as the most influential man of 2010 in a study that polled over 500,000 readers. One can't deny that Jon Stewart has garnered much attention and respect from many Americans. This leaves many people wondering about the effects that political satire can have on society and how we view journalism. The Pew Research Center took great interest in Jon Stewart's position on their list of trusted journalists, so much that they did an analysis in 2008 that studied the similarities and differences between The Daily Show and regular news programs. They found that the content of the show is mostly political and based on real stories covered by the news media. However, Stewart always combines facts with fictional elements and adult humor in a way that would not be acceptable in journalism. And Stewart would agree that he is not a journalist and that he should not be thought of as one. Stewart has said that his show merely consists of a group of people that really feel that they want to write jokes about the absurdity that we see in the government and the world and all that, and that's it. The Daily Show should be thought of as a satirical analysis of the news, rather than a news program with the social responsibility of actually reporting the news. In this day and age, Americans are becoming less and less involved in government issues. This is important because we live in a democracy that is meant to be ran by the people. In order for a democracy to function productively, there needs to be an active and educated civilized discourse among citizens. News media corporations have unfortunately become so polluted with greed, sensationalism, and partisanship that our nation is starving for responsible journalists to educate us on important government issues from an objective standpoint. Fortunately, we don't live in a country where making a pointed political joke can lead to less than funny consequences. The reason the First Amendment protects our freedom of speech is so that we can have an open communication between citizens of all race and religion about how we should operate as a democracy. Let's also not forget that sometimes everyone just needs to have a good laugh. People like jokes, and sometimes the art of comedy can be used to communicate ideas in an amazingly effective and creative way. Satire is a style of comedy that uses humor, irony, exaggeration, or ridicule to expose and criticize people's stupidity or vices, often in the context of contemporary politics. The idea of satire is to be clever and funny, but it can also be used to evoke critical thinking about what the comedian feels are important issues. In an interview with Radio Free Europe, Stewart said that just because we are doing comedy doesn't mean that we don't care about the things we are making jokes about. Studies have also found that The Daily Show's content not only assumes, but even requires, previous and significant knowledge of the news on the part of the viewers if they want to get the joke. This suggests that his regular viewers typically are well informed about current events and politics. Viewers, perhaps by viewing the news from a satirical perspective, viewers tend to think more about real topics in an alternative way that can help inform opinions and encouraging discourse. However, as expected, not everyone in the media is laughing at Jon Stewart, particularly the victims of his criticisms, which has included politicians, journalists, and other public figures, and giant media corporations. In the fall of 2004, Stewart made an appearance on CNN's debate show Crossfire that actually led to the cancellation of the show. He used this opportunity to confront the show's hardballing pundits about how he felt the show was affecting society. Stewart felt that the way the show was operating was hurting America, and that it only helped make politicians' lives easier by failing to hold their feet to the fire. The comedian stated, "I'm here to confront you because we need help from the media, and they're hurting us." This was followed by a notable applause from the live audience. There was much debate between Stewart and the show's Republican commentator, Tucker Carlson, who reacted to Stewart's confrontation defensively by saying things like, "John, I think you're a good comedian. I think your lectures are boring. And you need to get a job at a journalism school, I think." To which Stewart replied, "You need to go to one." Jon Stewart went on Crossfire that night to express his concern that the show's commentators were not living up to their responsibility to the public discourse, and this played a large role in the fate of the program. After the show's cancellation in January of 2005, CNN President Jonathan Klein said, "I wholeheartedly agree with Jon Stewart's overall premise." He agreed that after the 9/11 terror attacks, people were more interested in useful information than opinion. And a bunch of guys screaming at each other simply doesn't accomplish that, said Klein. CNN also ended their relationship with Tucker Carlson following the cancellation. More recently, on June 20th, 2011, during an interview on Fox News Sunday, journalist Chris Wallace admitted to Stewart that he believes he is an idealized, partisan activist. He said he feels this way because of how often Stewart mocks conservatives on The Daily Show. Wallace feels that Stewart only mocks liberals on occasion to maintain his credibility, and that he particularly likes to make fun of conservatives. It may be true that Stewart tends to make more fun of conservatives, but could this really be because Stewart has a biased liberal agenda, or could it be that conservatives are just consistently more absurd than liberals? I feel like people admire Jon Stewart not only because he is a very talented comedian, but also because he has shown that he is smart, honest, and that he cares a lot about our society. In my research, I have found that The Daily Show with Jon Stewart's main focus is on exposing absurdities in the government and in journalism in a way that gives some people what they feel is a more clear view of the bigger picture. The show serves as a communication gap between society and the journalistic media that is much needed in these times. The role of journalism in a democracy is very important, and because of the amount of distrust felt towards the mainstream media these days, we should have people outside of journalism in the media that care enough about our society to publicly criticize the media and government when they do not live up to their moral obligations. I think Jon Stewart is a primary example of a contemporary public figure who has successfully serviced society in this way. Thank you.